Okay. Hopefully this is making sense. Let's go to the chat box here real quick. Tell me if this is helpful, if this is making sense, because I can tend to get super nerdy and I want to make sure that this is like, understandable. You guys have a good idea of what mitochondria are and why they're so important. Okay. So Beth says yes. And Annette says yes. Joe says yes. Okay, cool. All right. If I get too super nerdy and if I start to lose you guys, please go to the chat box and say, Cyrus, slow down, stop. I need to digest this information. Okay. I'm totally happy to slow the whole thing down. Okay. No problem. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for the comments. I appreciate this. Okay. So let's continue. Oxygen debt makes new mitochondria, and that's really important. Okay. Now, guess what? 20 years ago, exercise physiologists thought that was pretty much the only way that you could make new mitochondria. They would say, okay, cool, sweet, go exercise and you'll make more. But what they found over the course of time that there's many things that can actually stimulate the production of new mitochondria. One of them is cold exposure. If you literally go and dunk yourself in really cold water, which is all really popular, these like cold plunges, or you go to an Arctic area, or heck, you can even go to high altitude and you can go up to like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet and live there for some period of time. Well, guess what? That also helps stimulate the production of new mitochondria. Okay. There's many things you can do to make new mitochondria inside of your muscle, inside of your brain, inside of your liver tissue. Okay. But what scientists did not know 20 years ago, which they do know now, is that the food that you put in your body actually can make new mitochondria. And this is mind-blowing information because scientists never thought that this was actually possible, that the food you put on your plate can actually not just prevent mitochondria from getting weaker over time, but you can actually make specific food choices which will stimulate the production of new mitochondria, which is like kind of a weird concept if you think about it. Okay. So there was a review paper published back in 2022, so about 3 years ago, where scientists tried to figure out, they said, okay, look, there's been a lot of stuff published about food and some of it is confusing and some of it's not confusing, but let's try and put it all together and see if we can make sense of this whole mitochondrial biogenesis thing and try and figure out, what do I need to eat in order to make new mitochondria? Is there conclusive evidence one way or another? Is it even possible? Okay. So what these scientists did is they said, all right, let's take a look at all the research and we'll try and make sense of it. Okay. So they took the research and they basically grouped papers into one of 5 different diets. Okay. The first diet is a high fat diet. Okay. There's a whole bunch of research about what happens when you eat a high fat diet. And so they basically analyzed papers that described what happens when you eat a diet that's basically 30 to 35% of calories from fat. Okay. That's what they refer to as quote unquote high fat, which technically speaking is not actually that high fat, but that's what they used for the paper. The second type of diet they analyzed was called a calorie restricted diet, which is 20 to 30% reduction in daily calories. Okay. So if you calorie restrict and you restrict your daily calorie intake by 20 to 30%, that's technically considered a calorie restricted diet. The third type of diet was called a ketogenic diet. You've probably heard about these, okay? A classic ketogenic diet or a modified Atkins diet. This is where this is an ultra low carbohydrate diet where you're eating a maximum of about 30 grams per day of carbohydrate energy. All right. The fourth diet is called a fasting diet. And a fasting diet is basically a voluntary absence from food for 12 plus hours per day. This is otherwise known as like an intermittent fasting regimen, if you will. And then finally, we have what's called the Mediterranean diet, which is a plant-focused diet containing a minimal amount of meat, seafood, and dairy products. Okay. Now, minimal is gray term, okay? Because some papers used a little bit more than others, but in general, we're looking at a plant-strong diet. 80%, 85%, 90% of all calories coming from plant-based foods. All right. So they took all of this information. They said, all right, okay, what happens in each scenario? Scenario number 1, a high-fat diet. What they found out by reading a lot of research was that when you consume a high-fat diet, it actually impairs mitochondrial health. What you end up seeing across many different studies over the course of time is that high-fat diets impair mitochondrial biogenesis. They impair the mitochondrial network by, number 1, preventing the mitochondrial biogenesis pathway from happening properly, which means it makes it harder for mitochondria to replicate themselves and fuse and become stronger as a network. High-fat diets induce what's known as insulin resistance, and that is the first step in creating a whole collection of metabolic disorders, including high cholesterol, hypertriglyceridemia, increased risk for obesity, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and many versions of heart disease. All right. So high fat can lead to impaired mitochondrial biogenesis, which in turn can lead to insulin resistance, which in turn can cause blood glucose dysregulation. That's a problem. Okay. If you read the Mastering Diabetes book, or if you're interested in this concept in particular, we go into grave detail about the insulin resistance pathology in that book. So I highly recommend picking that book up and reading it. Okay. Now, number two, a high-fat diet can also impair the function of pre-existing mitochondria. So in other words, it can make it harder for mitochondria to replicate themselves, but it can also make it so that the existing mitochondria, without even replicating themselves, they just become weaker. They become less functional. They don't make as much ATP, and they accumulate what's called oxidative stress. And oxidative stress can make the entire mitochondrial network less functional. And then finally, the net result of this is that it can cause an increase in the number of mitochondria that become damaged over the course of time. And this right here leads to what's called fission events, as we saw earlier. And these fission events can make the entire cellular architecture more damaged and more dysfunctional over the course of time.